Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and today I have a trio of cards to share with you with some fun tips and tricks for stamping out multiple designs with a layering stamp. I'm going to be creating these fun little flower wand cards. I did some looking on Pinterest and I just thought it was kind of a fun, unique design. I'm using mainly the Timeless Blossom stamp. I'm also featuring the With Thanks stamp set and the A2 rectangles. And I didn't have it showing here at the beginning, but I'm going to also stamp some sentiments on the inside using Inside Greetings. All of these are from the most recent Simon Says stamp release. I hadn't had a chance to use these Timeless Blossoms yet, and I didn't have the coordinating die yet. There was a little bit of delay on shipping those, but I still wanted to pull out the stamp set and use this fun layering set. Now, one thing I love to do, you've probably noticed, is make multiples of cards. I'm going to make 3 cards today. And with the magic of a stamp positioner, I'm using my mini Misty. You have the ability really easily to stamp out multiple sets. You can do different colors. You could make a set all the same. I'm going to mix and match the colors, but it's minimal effort to get multiple cards at the same time with this effort. So the way this layering set works, I'm starting with that first layer, which is the greenery layer. And I'm just kind of centering it on my A2 panel of white cardstock. This is going to it's a good placeholder for where you want it to sit on your card front, the way the greenery fits on there. So I'm starting off with Sage ink. This is going to be for my first color combo. And it stamped pretty well and it would have been fine, but each one of these I'm stamping twice to get a really bold, clear impression. So for that first one I did Sage. The next one I'm going to do Dublin, and I'm just repeating the same thing. Stamping it onto my panel, always making sure that that A2 panel of white cardstock is lined up in that bottom right corner. This is going to allow each layer to stamp on there perfectly without any issues. And then I'm moving on to Tropic. Same thing, making sure it's aligned in the right corner, and I'm going to stamp that on there. Again, double stamping each time. I'm not going to show the double stamping for each layer of this. I just kind of wanted to show that I did that for each of these layers and for all the colors. All right, each of these are numbered and labeled, so I'm going to move on to that second one. I also love that they're colored to kind of help you see on the example how they match up. Now, layering stamps like this can sometimes be a little tricky to line up, but this one I found had some really great little, I was trying to show you there on the clear stamp, but I'm going to pull the packaging back out there. And you can see, to some extent, it's pretty easy to kind of just see where it nestles in there and where it makes sense and fits. If you get it off, you can see some areas wouldn't fit in there. But let me pull the packaging back out and I'll show you a little bit better. Those little spots I'm pointing at, they're little kind of triangle areas. I found those helped me a lot with the lining up. I'm going to point at them with my embellishment wand there. But there's like these little, they kind of just like little notches almost. And then those larger flowers where those fit between the leaves are also great reference points. So, and then on the pink ones, you can see the same thing, those same little triangle areas. So I kind of found those points, the main big flowers, and then those little triangle corners really helped me get this lined up perfectly. And then I'm going to just finagle it there to make sure I have it just right. Pick it up again, make sure that's pressed down in that bottom right corner. And then I'm pulling my next layer of colors. For this one, I'm doing Cantaloupe ink. I am going to stamp it twice, but I'm just not going to show that here both times. And then for the next one, I'm using Zest ink. I kind of tried to mix and match the colors and not just follow the example on there. With the more solid image like that, sometimes you get a little ink up on the non-stamping area. So just be careful when you press down that you don't push too hard and get that on there. That final one, I used Taffy for that, or I'm sorry, not Taffy, that was Sweets. It showed it on there, so you know what it was. I looked at the wrong spot. Later on, the gems I use are called Sweets, so that's what got me. All right, one other thing to note there on that stamp set, you notice how there's a little arrow on the acetate that holds the stamp there. That shows you which direction is down. So as long as you match that up on each of these layers, with some of them turned sideways, that was really helpful. You can still figure it out pretty easily when you start putting it on there, but that just kind of makes it a little more foolproof. All right, going back to that first one, and we're adding rhubarb ink on this one. So this first color combo used Sage, Cantaloupe, and Rhubarb. Then moving on to Pucker for this one. This is the one with Dublin, Zest, and then Pucker for that last floral layer. And then finally, the one that had tropic and sweets, we're going to add grapefruit for this final layer. And again, I didn't show it, but I did double stamp each of these just to get a really bold, solid impression. So now we have those lovely 3 florals. And one more little detail to kind of offset where I'm adding the sentiment. I grabbed that little straight kind of detail line. And now it's not going to pop on there super crazy, but it's just going to add a little bit of something that's going to make our sentiment stand out from that background. And you kind of see there's a little bit of sort of an open area, and that's where I'm nestling that in. I'm also using the grid on my Misty lid, whatever stamp positioner you're using. I had to kind of get my head in there to make sure it was lined up straight, but use that grid is really going to help make sure that you have it level on your card front. And each one of these I'm stamping 2 times. And then I'm kind of just skipping ahead. So that's finishing off that last one on the bottom there on both of those. And then I cleaned it off really well, made sure it dried. And then I'm switching it, just swinging it around and reversing it. So it's the exact same thing, but it kind of mirror images on the top. And again, using my Misty grid, if you get a little crooked on there, sometimes you can just kind of grab that end and fix that little spot to straighten it. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing, stamp that onto each of those. Again, I'm using Nocturne ink. It's VersaFine Clair. It's a really great, I did stamp twice. I really didn't need to. I just wanted to make sure those lines, they were so fine and dainty. I wanted to make sure they were really on there solid and crisp. Then I'm grabbing that thin sentiment from the With Thanks stamp set. I'm going to stamp this. I've just got a scrap of white cardstock. I love using scraps for my sentiments. It's a great way to use those up. And I'm going to stamp that 3 times on there. Now, while I set those sentiments aside to dry, I'm going to die cut some panels so I can mount these on colored cardstock. Now, you could just trim them with a paper trimmer, but I love these new A2 rectangles. They're D-tabbed, and there's a great nesting set, all the sizes you can possibly want. And this is a great way for me to get, I love how I get that finished edge with a die cut. And also I can kind of center if my background stamping was a little crooked, it gives me the ability to fix that. Now, those sentiments had dried. I went ahead and die cut each one of them out. And then as you can see, I die cut 3 more times for each one. You can skip this step. You can mount it directly. You can use little tiny pieces of foam adhesive, but sometimes it's easier to just stack multiple layers of the die cut, especially one that's got this many little details in it, which is part of the bonus of having a coordinating die. You could also use a sentiment that you just trim down to a thin strip. But I loved having so much of the flowers still visible on this set, even after putting the sentiment on there. I'm using a little bit of liquid glue. A glue pen also works great for this. And each layer, I just kind of pick it up and make sure I wiggle it around with that liquid glue and that everything lines up perfectly. I repeated that for the other 2, total of 3 off camera. I didn't figure you needed to sit and watch that. And then to place these in place, I find my little reverse tweezers are super helpful. So I'm going to use those and add a little liquid glue. And then same thing, I can just kind of hold that in place, get it perfect. That liquid glue does give me a half second to kind of wiggle it around until it's perfectly placed. Now I chose some coordinating colors of cardstock. These are all from Spellbinders on this particular combo, but whatever favorites you have would work great for this. Now, one trick to conserve my colored cardstock. I love having colored cardstock bases, but sometimes I don't want to use it up. I tend to want to hoard that specialty cardstock a little. So sometimes I'll just grab white card bases and then an A2 panel perfectly cut of that colored cardstock. And I can mount it on the front. And there you get that full background as if you have a colored card base, but you've saved a little extra of your colored cardstock. I have full foam panels that I'm using to mount these. Simon Says sells panels. I've trimmed them down slightly, but it's just fun foam with good sturdy adhesive covering the entire panel. You can also just use your regular foam tape to do this, but a little bit of dimension, again, totally optional. All right, moving on. I wanted to add lots of sparkle to these, so I grabbed some coordinating colors of Dazzling Gems. I'm using the warm tones, which include Sunbeam, Mandarin, and Taffy. And then I also grabbed Peachy, and I just coordinated the colors of those gems to match with the flowers. And except for the flowers behind the sentiment, I put one in the center or at the base of each of them. Now we're going to turn those beautiful flower hearts into wands. I'm using the Pretty Bows die, And you can see I've already picked one and die cut that from Honey Gold Tonic Cardstock. It's kind of a matte finish. Now for that bottom part, I just grabbed my paper trimmer and cut little thin strips. I don't even know, I didn't measure specifically, just kind of the thinnest I could cut with my paper trimmer and keep them straight. And I have a little bigger than I need, but I just adhered them on there with liquid glue and then added that bow right at the top. So it kind of completes that wand look kind of coming off at the bottom. Just a fun touch that made them a little more interesting on their own. Just with the hearts, they were still lovely, but I just thought the bows and adding those little straight pieces at the end to turn them into little wands was just kind of a fun addition. Then once it's dried a little bit, I just trimmed that extra off with some tiny scissors. And there we have each of those finished. As is, they're perfect, but I wanted to add some of the secondary sentiments. So I used that Inside Greetings 1 stamp set and just picked a different one for the inside of each card. I'm giving you a little peek inside. I used my Misty to stamp those in place. And that finishes off this set of cards. Lots of fun colors. I love how they all look together. There's a little peek again at the inside of them. And I hope you picked up some fun tricks for making multiples of cards and that this inspires you to pull out some of the newest release or some of your other favorites. If you enjoyed this video, I would love if you hit the thumbs up. And if you enjoy my videos, I also would love if you'd subscribe to my channel and come back for more. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for coming by.